differently than some people do. I understand that. But when people come to the microphone, I listen to everybody. The issue is that they think that listening means, listen, please listen, this is very important. I'm elected to use my best judgment, and that's what I use, my best judgment, and I listen to people. If it makes a change, we make a change, but because we don't do what somebody says, if it's out of our best judgment, that's what we're putting.
But I think the problem people have is that there's the recent negotiations with, the city employees, they felt, it seems, that there was a nice negotiation going on, a compromise. But that was one of the first times I've heard that come out of this council, that there felt like people were listening to each other. And I think that there's maybe a different way of speaking to people or something needs to happen for people to feel like they're actually being listened to, taking some ideas from different sides of things. Doesn't seem to be happening. Tony, do you have an idea of how, you can work with different parts of it?
With all due respect to Mayor Righeimer, in politics, perception is reality. And whether or not he is in fact listening to people or not, that's the perception. And it's going to drive public opinion. And because of that, you're unable to build consensus and do so many needs that the community has, such as homelessness.
Right.
We have a 5-member council. We don't have a 3-member council. This isn't the U.S. House of Representatives.
So how do you get people to feel like they are being listened to? What do you do?
Well, I personally feel immediately we need to get rid of the public comments policy and revert back to the old public comments policy. Whether or not I understand there's some justifications for other cities have similar things, but clearly people feel like they're not being heard. City council has both an executive, legislative, and judicial function. I think what's missing is that judicial function. At least people feel that it's missing, and I'd like to see that brought back.
John, you wanted to jump in here
since
for
you
a minute.
we were going to talk about the public
We
comments.
have it, yes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the public comments later, but since you brought it up, I just kind of want to see how do the other folks feel? Would you guys switch back to the old comment system? And for those of you who don't know, in the old way, people could speak before the council meeting, and now they let 10 people chosen randomly speak, and then they trail the rest to the end of the meeting. And so, what do you think, Chris? What's the best way to do this?
It's one of the keystones of my campaign. You'll talk anytime you want an applaud. It's like city council chambers. You don't control what you got to do.
Let me try to dilemma of running a city council meeting. You have people that have scheduled, residents that are coming in, say the Colleen group that want to come in on their issue. And we have time for those people to come in. What was happening, and it's calmed down now that we've changed this policy, but what's happening, we had same people come up every single time, talk on every single issue, and drag out the meeting. The problem that was happening was we have 50 people waiting for an item that goes to 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, if you're a neighborhood, and they're talking about the Cadillac dealership over here, and you're waiting till 1 in the morning for someone to sing a song and everything else, you have to figure out how to manage it. All I was trying to look at is say, how do we manage this?
What about the senior citizens that have to make a OCTA bus by midnight, and you're pushing the comments back after the
what we're trying to do is make sure that people can do it. I'm open to changing it. If somebody wants to get together and figure out how do you
change it back, then, Joe.
Hold on a second. Find the process that a meeting can get done before 2 in the morning for things that are scheduled.
It's called democracy, First Amendment.
Yeah, but no, I mean, somebody who comes.
No, hold on one second.
Jay's got a point too.
I've had some experience on being on the council before, and the real simple matter is that we never had this kind of problem. Maybe we just didn't make controversial decisions. Maybe we didn't open up SROs. Maybe we didn't do things like get our money out of the county before it went bankrupt. Maybe we didn't get those kind of.
It's because Jim was on the city council.
We didn't have those. We didn't go all the time.
Let me respond to that. We came through a recession. When I got on the council, we were $24 million in debt.
Still are. Still are.
Yes, we were. In 6 months, we turned that around. We put $14 million into reserves.
Bullets.
Yes. We spent $40 million.
Bull.
Wait, you have to back that up.
Listen, the point is very simple. The previous
If you throw numbers around and half.
Yeah, you
Talking
can't say
things
that.
are going, wait a minute,
Let me talk-
$24 million in debt, hang on, where's that?
Hold on.
I don't remember that.
I forget that in the budget.
Let's talk about a quiet meeting. Let's talk about November
Pretend you didn't say
2007.
that?
November 2007, the employee contract was put on a consent agenda with 14 other items, and nobody said boo. You know what that consent agenda item was? That was to go ahead and change the pensions from a 50% pension, a 60% pension, to a 75% pension, and nobody said a word. You're absolutely correct. This council is taking extremely tough issues and working through them. And when people are out there, I can understand they're upset and they're
Well,
worried about it.
speaking of tough
But-
issues, let's switch again. And let's talk about the rehab home issue.
What did happen during that time is because one of the major operators didn't want to fight. They settled and they came up with an agreement, and they used that agreement. We didn't have any major operators, so we had nothing to agree to. What the council has done since, and we just finished up with the task force I put together, it was have an ordinance now going to the planning commission, and it will come on to the city council. It will be extremely controversial. People that are in group homes and have drug and alcohol problems have rights, and it has to do with the ADA, has to do with federal rights, and so it's very important that you handle that properly. The reason Newport Beach lost is because people from the public didn't understand that they were discriminating, that people on the council were discriminating, and so the judge just threw it out. We want to make sure through the process that we're not discriminating, but that we have to say the characters of the neighborhoods are changing, and what can we do to do that? And part of that
Chris,
is...
did you want to say something about the rehab homes?
Yeah, so I've been meeting with a lot of residents on the east side, and the numbers that they've come up with rehab homes in the city, their list that they've compiled is over 300. They think that the police department has another list that would add those homes. Now, Jim did put together a task force, which is not an official task force.
Right.
It's an official task force, it's not a committee.
It's
Who
not
picked
even,
them?
well, it's not a committee under the Brown Act, so we don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yes, the CEO Hatch has been there.
It's secret.
The city attorney has been there, but you know the one person that should be there? The chief of police. And that's because Jim has been on the chief of police. This is it. Hold on, Jim. It's not Jim. Don't put the house
Don't tell me I didn't get along with the
Take
chief
your
of
time.
police.
You're suing the police department. What are you talking about? You sue the police association, which is the police department, which is the city of Costa
No,
Mesa.
no, sir,
I digress.
sir.
So we continue.
This is a very important point.
So
We're going to get into this.
We're going to get to the lawsuit.
this is good over the time. For example, no data is being collected right now for the rehab homes and group homes. For example, arrests, nuisance calls, and by the way, in rehab homes, detox centers, they're not allowed in R1 residential. It's against the law. Yet on Geyser, I'm being told that the greenhouse, that nice house that's over there, there's detox going on there. That's under Jim's watch. They came to Costa Mesa, why? Because frankly, the real estate is cheap. I met with a woman that lives in Eldon, and next to her house is a 6-unit condo. Every 6 unit has 6 people in it, so she has 36 people recycling.
But we understand that these are a problem. If you're elected, what are you going to do? Because there is the ADA issue.
The city of Orange put together an ordinance as far as like there has to be.
The city, that was brought by Wendy Lease. And I think it's important that 2 years ago we brought that forward. So we need to keep clearly in mind whether this council has taken action in that area at all and why that might be true.
Well, but you know what? I'm sorry, Jay. I still feel that when Newport Beach was going through it and it was a hot topic there, Costa Mesa should have partnered with the city because they were stronger together than they are apart.
Barbara Venezia signed on to this too, though.
Yeah, but that's right next door.
You know, I met meeting with the people of the Take Back Our Neighborhood. They admitted that they didn't put the throttle soon enough because now we're overwhelmed.
Yeah, you definitely, the city is
Yeah, by the way, part of the ordinance does have a 500-foot, it'd be between 500 and 700 feet. The limit will be based on what the planning commission does, that the houses have to be separated.
Tony, do you want to close rehab?
We're budgeted for 136.
Yeah, so we're budgeted at 136, and right now there's about 50 available for patrol when they're budgeted for about 65, 64.
So patrol's been at 50 for 51 or 2, 3 years.
Okay.
That's what it's stepped up for.
Okay.
It's always been the same.
Okay, so I mean, basically, the community feels like the staffing is too low, and that too many people have left the department. You know, how did we get here? Why are we here? Is there a plan to increase police staffing, or do you want to keep it where it is? I mean, what's the situation?
Well, I mean, first of all, look at the question. The community is saying X, Y, or Z. I think because the people that read the Daily Pilot, who write in back and forth to make the comments, aren't necessarily all the community. The issue in the community with police is, are you safe? Is there crime? That's the issue to look at.
Has the crime level gone up?
And the crime level dropped last year by 30%.
No.
This year it's down 2%.
Wrong.
So it is.
Well, part one crimes are down, right? But there are other categories that are up.
Correct. And so one of the things you have to look for in crime is crimes caused by who lives in your city and who you attract. We could triple the police force tomorrow, and crime's not going to change much. What it does, you have to look at what you attract. We've been working extremely hard on the motel issue. Because the motel issue, you look at the low-level crimes,
we're
the
gonna get to
breaking
the motel
in, the
issue.
breaking into cars and those kind of things are happening. Again, with the group homes, when they get kicked out of a group home, then in a motel, you have this problem. So the issue is to find out what attracts crime to your city and to work on that. I would talk to Chief Gacy the other day for over an hour. We went through the whole issue of our police department and how we're set up. Bottom line, in 2008, 2009, 4 years before I got here, the council in all cities, just about all cities across the country, were backing down the amount of police they had because the budget crunch was coming and happening. And so that went down. And now the cities are all coming back and doing it. We put in a program to hire more officers, and we're hiring more officers on a ratio compared to any other city around than anybody else is doing. We just did 5 more out of the academy. We're picking quality officers. One of our officers was number one in the
Just before, I'll get you, Jay. Is your goal to get back to 136?
Absolutely.
And do you have a timeline on that? Is that something you can pledge to do in the next?
Yeah, well, if you look at the numbers, I asked the chief again, the numbers, by the end of the year, we'll have about 24 hired, and then they'll go through the process. It takes 4 to 6 months to go through training, and you continue to bring them on. Remember, we're still retiring about a dozen a year, so we got to do a dozen a year just to keep up with the number, and then add to that. And what we said to them was, do what it takes, and we shifted the HR department to have separate staff just to help get through the backlog.
Hey, wait a minute, Jim, with all due respect to you, Jay, I just have one quick follow-up question, which is, you're saying you want to get back to 136.
Yes.
But at the same time, I've heard you in other forums, and I think it's one of the most interesting things that you talk about, which is crime is stemmed from a lot of different things. And it's not just police officers. But now you're saying that you want to get back to 136. So in a sense, are you kind of wanting to have it both ways? On one hand, you're talking about system change to try with root causes of what causes crime, but now that you're up for election, I hear you saying, well, we'll go right back to 136
No, not back to
numbers equal safety.
That's fair enough. With the highest crime that we had in our city 10 years ago, we had 165. The crime has dropped through demographics and all sorts of reasons, and you don't necessarily need that. We had one time in this city, Newport Beach, had 9 helicopter pilots, 2 mechanics, and 3 helicopters. Those, you don't need those anymore. We're getting that service from Huntington Beach. Do we count those officers? No.
Do you think police are too toy happy? You think that police? Do you
I
think
don't want to
that
get
police
into
are
toy
too
happy.
happy? Like helicopters,
I think helicopters are great on larger areas. They shouldn't be in one small city. They should be in larger areas. And so we do now have Huntington Beach and Newport and Costa Mesa together. We buy service from them. It costs us about 20% of the price.
Jay, did you want to jump in here?
Well, there's 3 or 4 things involved here. First off, of those 108 officers, 16 are on the injured list because all the overtime they have to work to try to keep services up. Secondarily, so we're not at 108. Secondarily, the council's own consultant said that we should have 135, 134, and that should be worked out about 140 to make sure we keep that number. Unfortunately, because of the hostile attitude that has been between the police and the council for the last 4 years that I know of, the problem is that we can't hire laterals. We hired 5 people from the police academy, and that's wonderful. We got 5 people, 2 are gone. And the problem is that the faster they come on, those folks have to be trained up, and that's another 18 months to get them street functional for our city. So all those things are all well and good and said, but we get talked about all the different people that are applying. But it's interesting to note that very few people actually qualify because we're not getting the top quality people. We're getting somebody in the bottom end of the group. So it's a very hard list to pick from.
Chris, where are you? Where are you on the police situation?
So expanding off of what Jay was talking about, laterals, other cities, no one's coming here to lateral us. They're moving out.
This is a specific advocacy. I'm just asking, why not extend the olive branch and heal the relationship?
Okay, so it's very simple. All we've asked for, if there's nothing happened and nothing was wrong, just come and speak about it on the road. The officers who were involved, the law firm that they hired, and the private investigator refused to do that. I would drop this thing tomorrow if people just come forward, say what they did, and we're over with it there. But I think what you'll find is what was really happening here. This law firm represented 130 police officer associations throughout the state. This law firm went ahead and did things in other cities like extortion to city councils to get the kind of votes they needed. The district attorney did not get involved in this case, there's nothing there. The FBI is still involved in this case, not because there's nothing there. All we want is them to do it, and then for the last year and a half, they've done every trick in the book not to do in front of an oath, just for a deposition. They would do the deposition, I'm saying right now, if they would do depositions, show they were clean, we're done. But they refuse to do that.
How about just meeting with them privately? You guys sit down face to face and they tell you what happened.
That would be fine also in there. Here's the issue. I mean, it's a very simple issue. You had a police association hire a private investigator who tried to set up an elected official for a DUI. It was a complete false rumor. You had, during an election, the police association hire a private investigator who put a tracking device on an elected official's car. There is absolutely, please, don't, the district attorney has all the proof on that. That's not a problem. So the fact of the matter is, if we're going to live in a society where you can just go ahead and put tracking devices on an elected official's car to get what you want, and why did they do that, by the way? They didn't do it to use it for some campaign purposes. They do it to find, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever the issue is, and they use that to extort you to get what they want. That's the problem. And that's what this lawsuit's about.
Jay, did you want to say something?
Well, this is all well and good, but it's all proof positive why there is such acrimony between the police department and the city council, and why we don't get lateral people, and why we don't get lateral people, and why we don't have people coming in droves to actually come to Costa Mesa to be hired. I believe that with a change in this council, what will happen is the hostile attitude that exists there will go away. And we'll be able to, through consensus and a lot of other steps, find ways to get lateral, already trained, ready to go, first-class officers to come back and work for Costa Mesa. A number of officers have gone to other cities, and they're perfectly happy to have gone there. Those guys can probably be brought back in a lot of cases because they really want to be here, but they decide to leave for their own benefits.
Gilberto, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just have one last question to wait for Jim, because in some ways it's what you're arguing with your lawsuit against the police association, and as you said, the FBI is involved because part of what kind of the undertow of that lawsuit is that there's a system, and it is connected to the police department. There's a reason why cities are spending 65, 70% of their budgets on police and fire. Part of what it seems that you're arguing in your lawsuit is that this is a system that goes after, targets council members and looks for more resources to come to them in employee contracts. So it does seem, earlier you're saying that not the police department, it's just the police association, but it does seem that you're targeting or you're going after a system that is intertwined. I just think it's fair for you to speak to that issue.
Okay. So again, it is the police association who we negotiate the contract with. This law firm that represented 130 had this structure set up that we would have increases in pay based on neighboring cities, based on formulas of what's medium, and they defined what medium is.
Do you think there's
a
system?
Just spirals up.
Do you think there's a collusion between police departments and police unions to drive up police?
Not police departments, because the police department is part of the city. The associations do work together with their law firms, they're professionals.
And the police chief has no idea what's going on, and nobody in the police department knows what's going on. It's completely out of their... the two are disconnected is the way you want to have it.
What I'm saying is the police department's the city, the association is what goes ahead and does the contract. Listen, we have a lot of phenomenal police officers, and we have a lot of police officers that don't like what happened. You talk to them, they do not at all like what happened in the city. It tarnishes. But we're finding we're not the only city this happened in, it's other places that happened. Why did we see spiraling costs? Because their contracts were tied together with other cities, and automatic pay raises were given because of some cities.
When you basically first came onto the council, that kind of blew things up. One of the problems you have with the police association, it happened before you ever got elected, that you have, you started off with this anti-union kind of, wait, let me finish. So there's always been this kind of like anti-union attitude for you in the council majority. The problem with that for a lot of people in the community has been, that's not local. That's an ideal that you know, that's higher office. We're talking about what's going on in our community, what's best for us. We don't care about what you think about, you know, unions in general, okay? And so, when you start going after unions and it comes down to the police officers that are right in front of you and that are in our neighborhoods and our workers that you lay off half the city, you know, without even talking about it, these are people that we work with. These are people that we see every day. So your little, you know, the ideal that comes out strikes a lot of people as you don't care about the city. So my question actually to all of you is, you know, why are you doing this? I mean, are you doing this for higher office? Are you doing this to show people that you're a strong, you know, Democrat, Republican, and you have these great ideals? Or what about this community are you worried about?
Okay, first of all, if I can answer the question, I've had opportunities in our office. I've got 3 young kids at home. I'm not going to get on a plane to go to Sacramento. I'll be gone. I'm going to be home. I'll finish this term. I will have done 4 years on the planning commission if I know when. It'll be 8 years in city council. That's all the, you know, public service that I'm going to do. It's not an idea of ideals. When I spoke, and what was actually hit was at the Mesa Verde event that they put on, and I stood there, and there was the police, the union association, and the fire association in the back of the room, and I could have just kept my mouth shut. But the reality of it was, we had $250 million of unfunded pension because of a political scheme.
Everyone's dealing with unfunded
hold on.
pensions, though.
My point is that you have to do something about it. What I said...
And everyone is doing something about it without firing the city.
What I said was, first of all, we didn't fire anybody. What I said was, we love our police and our fire. We do. These are great people. They save our babies. They're out there protecting us. But we got to admit when the plan is unsustainable. The 90% of pay at 50 years
Do you understand that people hear what you say and how you speak to them and get offended by the way you
Well,
say it?
I get you're offended by it. I get some people are offended by it. I get that I'm not the best communicator. I'm not arguing. I'm not the best communicator, but I say what I'm going to do, and I do it.
Well,
let's say it out.
I'm offended with a lot of
because I want to get to the next issue, but close this for
I
me.
think there's somebody else.
Well, just yes or no, should 65% of your budget, because here's the reality, the more that you lock yourself into police and fire spending, the less money you have for other things, like code enforcement. Even though code enforcement isn't the police
No, it's separate.
department, but it's
It
separate.
works
Okay.
together.
I just quickly, is that a sustainable level in your mind to spend on police and fire, 65% of your budget?
Jay?
Well, it has been, employees have been the major portion of the city's budget from the start. You know, somewhere around 65 to 70% for all employees. And the reality is that there are parts that are not sustainable because they get ahead of the process and you don't keep those things. We found out about this problem because we had a terrible economy that crashed, and all of a sudden, people were seeing the lack of extra cash to take care of those different processes. So consequently, what we wound up by doing is we now
But again,
have a
are you
problem
okay with
fixed.
that level of spending moving forward?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It's by the way, it is the first job of the city, is to provide security for the people living in the businesses.
65% is sustainable. 19% on pension contributions and rising is not sustainable. So that's.
But yet, that's your.
I think maybe